What's up, guys? This is Trevor the Great here again from WotS with another super awesome battle report coming at you. This is another one that we're not going to have any Cygnar in, so a little bit mind-blowing here. But this report's actually from a couple months ago when I was in a stint playing Circle. I do actually encourage people, if they're getting in a sort of a rut with one faction, to take a look at a different faction. It opens up your mind a little bit. It's a fun thing to do, to play around with new models, and especially a faction like Circle. It's very different from Cygnar. It's very melee oriented and has a lot of mobility. Is a very interesting break from Cygnar and super fun to play around with. So I think I've had some battle reports on this channel of my other factions in the past, and this is just going to be another one of those, featuring Circle Orboros, as I said before. I'm playing Morvahna2 in this game. Morvahna, the Dawn Shadow is there, and I'm playing against Khador, led by the Butcher Unleashed. That's Butcher3. So let's just get right on into this. In my Morvahna list, it's basically my favorite Morvahna list, and it's not particularly groundbreaking. It's very similar to a lot of other Morvahna lists that have been played in the past, but it is a very small battle group. It includes a Warpwolf Stalker as well as a Gorax. There's a lot of units in it, though. There's a max unit of Blood Trackers with Nula. There is a max unit of Skinwalkers with their Alpha, and a max unit of Tharn Ravagers with a Chieftain. To round the list out, there's also a Swamp Gobber's Bellows crew, a unit of Shifting Stones with a unit attachment, as well as 2 Gallows Groves. So, as I said before, not particularly groundbreaking. Warmachine tends to run a lot of similar lists. There's just one or two paradigms that she really follows in list construction, and this is one of them. A lot of people take the Blood Pack instead of Tharn Ravagers. I actually tend to like the Tharn Ravagers a little bit more because they can really get into a bunch of infantry and clear them out as long as they're living with their corpse tokens. They can buy attacks and stuff like that. And then with Brutal Charge from the Chieftain, they can also crack armor a little bit, with which this list has a little bit of trouble with. It basically only has the Warpwolf Stalker to get in there and kill heavies, and it relies on the Skinwalkers and the Blood Trackers, just nickel and diming everything else. So the Ravagers really help with that, and they can fulfill a dual-purpose role, which is really great. In my opponent's list today, as I said before, I was playing Khador with Butcher3. So in his list, another pretty straightforward list, nothing super exciting, but we have the Butcher Unleashed, 2 Warjacks in his battle group. One is Ruin, his new character Jack, so obviously great choice there. The other one is a Juggernaut, just to add some extra armor to the list. Butcher can move those guys around pretty well with Energizer, so Ruin gets a completely ridiculous threat range between Reach and Boundless Charge. And the Juggernaut is also pretty scary on just by himself, just with the Energizer 3-inch movement, and then hitting you with the Power 19X, pretty strong. Butcher's also got his trusty War Dog with him. There are 2 units of Black Dragon Iron Fang Pikemen in the list to just screen for Butcher and get in the way, and just really great frontline infantry. They can fight a lot of other infantry with combined melee attack and be very resilient to them, and then also between Precision Strike and just Power 13 charges, they can ding up heavies pretty hard. There's also a bunch of guns in this list, a lot of really accurate shooting to kill infantry before the Black Dragons have to get in there. We have a unit of Widowmakers, so 4 Widowmakers, Alton Ashley, Kel Baylock, Saxon Orc, and a Widowmaker Marksman. So Saxon Orc's probably in there more for Pathfinder, because the Black Dragon Iron Fang Pikemen, unlike the standard Iron Fang Pikemen, do not get Relentless Charge, so they're going to have a little bit of trouble getting through terrain. However, he does have a Rat-7 military rifle, so POW 11, and then there's also a lot of other really accurate shooting in there to really decimate infantry, and they can also, because most of it has sniper, actually all of it has sniper basically against war beasts, you can use the trick where you knock a spirit out of a war beast and then get Black Dragon in there with Precision Strike. You can knock other aspects out, and then as long as you can land a hit with Silence of Death from Butcher, that war beast can't be healed, and so it's stuck there without aspects indefinitely, essentially. So you can really shut down war beasts pretty well like that. There's also a Madeline Corbeau to give Butcher some extra movement, as well as an Iron Fang Kovnik. So overall, pretty standard sort of Khador fare. Not a lot of mind-blowing synergies in this list, but it is a very strong list. It tends to be very straightforward, and a good list with Butcher3. The scenario we're playing today is Outflank, so one of my favorite scenarios just because it's very simple. There are 2 12-inch diameter circular zones along the center line of the table. You can control them for 1 point or dominate them for 2 points, and that's it. No crazy artifices, no objectives, no flags, nothing like that. Just 2 zones you got to fight over. Obviously, pretty good scenario for Butcher. He tends to be able to clear one zone and then dominate it. All he has to do is do that a couple times, and then he'll win the game. So he has a pretty easy chance of just killing everything in the zone by himself. So we'll see if Morvahna can pull this game out, and yeah, it's going to be good. I won the role to go first in this game and chose to take the first turn. That's something I tend to like to do with Morvahna because I like to put a lot of pressure on my opponent, moving all that infantry very aggressively up the table. Now, I tend to have a set deployment that I like to do with this list. I like to place my Skinwalkers behind my Blood Trackers, so my Blood Trackers will probably deploy in front of those Skinwalkers there on my right flank, and then deploy my Battle Group and the Ravagers on the other side. That means both sides of the table can sort of deal with both armor and infantry a little bit equally, especially if they're living infantry, so that the Ravagers can chew through them with corpse tokens. And then each side can move over to support the other if they really need to, but both sides function basically independently. Morvahna sits in the middle to give everybody rerolls and heal off of their untimely demises, but that's mostly how the list is going to work. As you can see, Butcher is basically deployed in a mirror across the center of the table, one unit of Iron Fang pikemen on each side. He's deployed across from the blue zone mostly because of that house across from the red zone on his left flank, which is going to get in the way of those Iron Fang pikemen if they're going to try to get up and get in the way. Here's all the advanced deploy going down. As you can see, it's Blood Trackers in front of the Skinwalkers, and then those Ravagers across from that forest there. The forest is pretty good for the Ravagers because if they are in melee with it, so if those Iron Fang pikemen get that far up the table, those Ravagers are going to be able to benefit from +2 defense against melee attacks from Tree Walker while they're in that forest. All of those snipers going across from the Ravagers, obviously they're not particularly useful against Blood Trackers because Blood Trackers have stealth, so they're going to try to shoot at basically the only target that they can get in this particular list and try to kill those guys. Blood Trackers running up. Not too much to say here, just a bunch of running going on. I think I did end up running the Blood Trackers a little bit too far because the Skinwalkers couldn't really move up to support them. Either that or I could have opened lanes for the Skinwalkers to get through the Blood Trackers a little bit better. So always something to keep in mind for the future. Ravagers running up pretty far. They didn't run up particularly far because I didn't want to run too far up into those guns. In hindsight, it might have been better to run a little bit farther and force those Widowmakers to retreat and basically keep the line of engagement closer to my opponent's side of the board, but I'm not really sure in hindsight. Everything else just moving up. Morvahna putting down Fog of War on herself, Carnivore onto the Skinwalkers, and the War Beasts riling to accumulate the correct amount of fury. Here we have some shots being taken onto the Ravagers. Unfortunately, with Fog of War, the Widowmakers are going to need 8s to hit them, so not doing a ton of work. I think we end up hitting 1 or 2 shots. The Widowmaker Marksman also missing. Kale Balok moving up next. I'm sorry, that's not true. That's not true. He just ran. Alton Ashley back there also running. And then here goes the battle group. Now, Ruin, because of his affinity with Butcher, gets Boundless Charge, so he's not going to need to be allocated focus in order to run on for turn 1. Charging actually goes 1 inch further with Butcher than his normal speed 4 run would be. He goes 9 inches, 7 inches for his charge plus 2 for Boundless Charge, versus the 8 inches for running. So it's actually better to charge around with him in Butcher, and then he can use Energizer to reposition Ruin wherever he needs him, which means that the straight line that's required for charging isn't going to be a huge deal. Butcher's also putting Silence of Death on Ruin, so keeping relatively far back, putting dogs in the way so that he doesn't just accrue any random damage from Sunder Spirits or random Blood Tracker attacks and get close to him. Obviously, all of these Black Dragons clouding up in both zones, just trying to get in the way. The unit across from the red zone, so that far unit, is going to mini-feat this turn to try to mitigate some of the damage that's going to be caused by the Blood Tracker attacks. Blood Trackers now needing 8s to kill them, which is a little tough in melee because, as you can see, a couple of the Blood Trackers have been engaged. And as I said before, I didn't really open a lot of lanes for the Skinwalkers, so I'm not going to be able to unengage them before they're able to activate. I start off on my turn here, upkeeping both my spells, and then charging with Ravagers. As you can see, I've gotten some good charges in with the Ravagers. One of them is able to get a charge into a little cluster of Iron Fang pikemen, hopefully to be able to kill more than one. With those corpse tokens, the Ravagers can really do a lot of damage to infantry, especially when they're clustered up like that. So you can charge in the middle of 2 or 3 of them and then kill them and buy attacks. So that's exactly what happened there. 2 Iron Fang pikemen down to Ravager attacks. And then 2 charges going down on Ruin. Now, these guys ended up rolling ridiculously high. I don't even think I needed to re-roll these damage rolls to spike super high, but I ended up taking out Ruin's movement with just 2 attacks, so that was very lucky for me. It means that I'm not really going to have to be as worried about Ruin with Silence of Death coming in for an assassination run at 14 inches as I would have been previously. So with that in mind, those Gobbers are just moving up to put a cloud next to that forest to keep Morvahna safe, and Morvahna's going to be able to move up relatively far up the table, and hopefully so she can affect the game herself. Part of the she's putting down a Sunder Spirit through that Gallows Grove there into Kalbalok, trying to kill him. Those Sunder Spirits, I think, are super useful just to knock off solos. 2 Widowmakers, I think, went down with Sunder Spirits there. Might have dropped Fog of War, actually. That might have happened. Just to take care of those guns, and then any War Beast with Animi, obviously, that I need to worry about. But I do like, because she doesn't have to spend a ton of Fury on a turn-by-turn basis, she ends up getting a lot of Sunder Spirits out. And she makes really good use of that offensive spell. She can take out important solos or unit attachments and really just make it havoc for her opponent. Here are the Blood Trackers activating right now. Obviously, they couldn't really get unengaged by the Skinwalkers, so they're just going to make some melee attacks. With Prey, they do go up to Mat 11, so they are relatively good at killing those Iron Fang pikemen, even under their mini feet. And then everyone they kill is going to trigger a quick work attack, so they're going to be able to also make a ranged attack, which is obviously going to be very useful. Trying to just get some damage out here. They do end up killing a lot of Iron Fangs, but looks like that one in the middle there, who's not dying, is going to be a little bit of an issue. He's engaging a lot of the Blood Trackers, so they're not really going to be able to take those quick work attacks. But the rest of them moving out. We're reforming back away from the Iron Fang pikemen, and then still keeping 2 in there to engage that one guy so he doesn't go anywhere super crazy. So we're going to end up sacrificing a couple of Blood Trackers in front, but the rest of them are going to be able to survive unengaged. And then here comes the Skinwalkers moving up. Looks like one's getting a charge onto that Iron Fang pikeman, and the rest moving up into position to clear off any Iron Fang pikemen that come up too far and on the subsequent turn. There is the Witch Doctor putting down Zombify onto those Blood Trackers, because they are the only non-fearless unit on the table right now, on the circle side anyway. So having that Undead for Ruin or Butcher's Terror Abomination is going to be very helpful. So it looks like we got a Madeline Corbeau trigger going off by those Ravagers, so Butcher moving up 3 inches. Ruin moving up, putting one of those guys into the dirt, I think. Morvahna healing, and he gets a soul. Ends up taking another attack on that second Ravager, so killing 2 Ravagers with his attacks. Here are the Widowmakers trying to shoot at some of the unengaged Ravagers far back there, trying to take the Officer out. Now, obviously, the Officer being killed is going to lose them Brutal Charge, so they're going to lose those Power 15 charges, but him not being a character means Morvahna can feed him back if he does get killed. So there he goes. So unfortunately, no Brutal Charge for the rest of this unit, but if he does get feeded back, then the unit will gain that ability again. Here goes the far unit of Iron Fang pikemen getting some charges off. Looks like one's charging far into the blue zone. He's going a long way there. The rest of them running up. That Standard Bearer hiding behind the house there. Hopefully to stop me from being able to wipe out the unit and switching prey to something else. They're taking a couple attacks onto one Skinwalker, looks like got put down, and then a couple Blood Trackers got killed. Morvahna healing back up from the rerolls that she took. The other Iron Fang pikemen going, they're going to use their mini feat this turn and just charging up to clear out the rest of those Ravagers. 2 charging that one Ravager over there. and then the rest moving up to just cloud up in front of that zone. So that's going to clear the zone for my opponent. He did go second, so he's going to be able to score this turn. So Butcher moving into the zone there accordingly to score him 2 points. Now, normally with Morvahna, I'm not too worried about giving up early scenario points because I'm able to move a lot of models very quickly into a zone, and then if they die, I'm able to feed them back, and my opponent usually runs out of steam to kill models eventually. Unfortunately, most of my force is located on the other zone, so Butcher's going to be able to clear this zone pretty easily. He's keeping his Warjacks pretty far back. Ruin's in front there. He's not particularly useful without his movement right now. The Juggernaut taking cover behind him. And so my opponent just being very cagey here, keeping a lot of force concentrated in that zone and making it very difficult for me to get anything done. So the Swamp Gobbers moving into that zone. We're charging that Iron Fang Pikeman, actually. They are I'm at 4, I think, but if I roll a 9, there's a pretty good chance I can kill one guy. That's basically free damage from my support models, and they are defense 15, so they are going to be pretty tricky for my opponent to kill without getting some of those Warjacks or Butcher himself in there. Now, contemplating a bit of a weird plan here. I want to kill Ruin. He's still an issue, and I want to start killing my opponent's heavy hitters so that Butcher has to come out and play at some point. But I don't want to do it with my Warp Wolf. Obviously, Butcher will be able to kill the Warp Wolf if I'm able to kill, if I move him up in order to kill the Jack. But what I can do, as I mentioned before, Morvahna hits pretty hard, and I did enough damage to Ruin to enable him to really be in danger of being killed by Power 12 Weapon Master. Before we do that, though, we're moving up the Skinwalkers to clear out some of these Iron Fang Pikemen in the way of the Blood Trackers. Taking some attacks there. I believe they do still have Carnivore on them, so they're going to heal Morvahna up. Yeah, there we go. So after the rerolls that she took last turn, she's going to be healed basically up to full at this point from dead models and Carnivore. Now, what we did determine at this point was that the forest was actually in Morvahna's way, so she wasn't going to be able to get line of sight to Ruin. So, come up with a bit of a wacky plan after some time thinking about it. Or I just activated Blood Trackers first, it looks like. So here go the Blood Trackers. One moving around that house to get the Standard Bearer. Hopefully I can take him out and be able to swap prey later on. The rest of them moving up in order to be in a position to move up towards my opponent's zone next turn. So, a couple of them moving up into melee with that. I think that's the Iron Fang officer on the hill there. So he's going to be a little bit of a tough nut to crack. But we do kill the rest of the Iron Fangs in that red zone. And we're able to clear it. We cut a little bit for some rerolls. Take some shots at the other Iron Fangs. Anytime I can try to kill my opponent's models that are in that zone is going to be good. I want to make it as difficult as possible for my opponent to be able to clear that zone so that he's not able to score any more points easily. Obviously, he still needs to dominate it 3 times, and I'm not sure he has the beef to get over to the other zone and threaten that one. So at this point, it's basically all going to be about that blue zone. I'm really going to need to jam that out, stop my opponent from winning on scenario, and instead do that myself. So here we go, wacky plan going on. Warp Wolf moving up, casting Lightning Strike onto Morvahna, and then Power Attack pushing her. Now he's warps for Strength, so he's Strength 12, and she's only Strength 6, I believe, so he has a very good chance of succeeding. Pushes her just around the lip of that forest there, gets line of sight to Ruin, and there she goes, gets her charge off, makes her charge attack, hits with a cavalry charge, and loses Life Trader to roll an additional amount of damage. Taking a second attack, life trading, and boosting the damage, and that ends up taking out Ruin. So there's Ruin dead, one of the Jacks gone, and one of the most important ones, actually. Looks like we also took an attack on that Iron Fang there, and weren't able to kill it. And then taking our light cav and sprint movement, so 13 total inches of movement, back over into the zone there. So that is some very impressive mobility from Morvahna, putting shifting stones in her way so that Butcher's not going to be able to move up and impending doom her, even if he was in range. I think with the intrigue movement from Madeline, he can probably get range, but I not not with shifting stones in the way. Unless he has a way to kill those shifting stones, Morvahna's going to stop as soon as she hits Impending Doom. So I don't feel too bad about that. I don't have to use my Warpwolf Stalker in order to kill Ruin, so that's one Jack down, and my opponent losing a lot of infantry. He's I think I was able to wipe out that Iron Fang unit, or instead there's one left back in the blue zone. So only one of those Iron Fangs left. I was able to kill a couple members with the Ravagers. And I think at this point, if I'm able to feat and move the majority of my army into that blue zone, I'm going to have a pretty good chance in scenario. I did score 2 points that last turn with Morvahna sprinting into that zone. So feeling pretty good at this point. There is that Juggernaut charging over the wreck marker of Ruin there. I think Butcher cast Silence of Death on him, so he could kill one of the blood trackers that had moved into the zone without triggering a tough check. A huge CMA from some Iron Fang killing one of the Swamp Gobbers, and here is a huge occurrence. The Widowmaker Marksman was able to move up behind that house there. You can't really see him, and get line of sight just barely to the last Ravager in the unit. He was hiding behind the forest, so that I think he needed to move out of the way for the Warpwolf Stalker to get the push on Morvahna. So he was only sitting at Defense 13 because Fog of War had dropped at this point, but with Armor 14 and 8 boxes, I wasn't expecting to lose him to the Widowmaker. So a big deal in this game. So the Widowmaker was able to go up, hit the Ravager, and then roll the 10 he needed to kill him. So that ends up wiping that unit out, and Morvahna's not going to be able to feed it back. So at this point, I start trying to switch gears, because I don't think I'm going to be able to put enough stuff into that zone without the Ravagers. The plan at that point was to use that last remaining Ravager to charge in and get a pseudo-berserk chain through all of those Iron Fangs that are in front there. He could probably kill all 4 of them pretty easily with rerolls. So 4 Iron Fangs down, and then charging in, hopefully scrapping that Juggernaut there with Skinwalkers and the Stalker, putting all of the Ravagers, most of the Skinwalkers, and that Stalker in the zone, and hopefully that would enable me to kill enough models that Butcher would either have to put himself in a compromising position in order to win the game and theoretically fail, or just not be able to do it. So, unfortunately, this is not looking too good for me. So, switching gears here a little bit, the Stalker moved up, killed that last remaining, or second to last unit, or model in the Iron Fang Pikeman unit from that other side, the far side. Kills them, and I'm able to switch prey over to Butcher. Now, I think I'm going to be able to get a couple of Blood Tracker attacks on Butcher, and because he filled up his Juggernaut and did cast Silence of Death, he's sitting on a relatively low camp. So at this point, Morvahna's going to get down and dirty again, charging in on one of the dogs so she can get a Sunder Spirit onto Butcher, taking her 2 Sunder Spirit attacks with rerolls, doing a significant amount of damage. She's dice -7, I believe, at this point. When she hits, she needs 7s to hit. One of them can be double boosted, and the other one, she just needs to roll that 7. But with rerolls, it looks pretty good, and I think she's able to do about half of Butcher's health with some spiked damage rolls from rerolled Sunder Spirits. That puts it down to just the Blood Trackers to get some high dice to kill him, and hopefully dig me out of this predicament. And there they go. It looks like I'm going to get 2 Blood Trackers in on Butcher. The rest of them aren't going to quite be able to make it. But hopefully we can hit. I think we do roll a significant amount of damage, and the second one hits, and I don't remember what I rolled there. I think I ended up leaving him on just a couple boxes, 2 or 3, I believe, at this point. Not quite re-rolling into what I needed. And we reformed just to make it difficult, but Morvahna's up in the middle there. I forgot to take my light cap movement from Morvahna after her activation, but it wasn't really going to matter at this point. I'd give Butcher a Madeline Corbeau trigger, and so the distance between Morvahna and Butcher I don't think was going to matter a huge deal with the proximity that they were in at the end of my turn. So, unfortunately, that assassination run doesn't go off. The Iron Fang Pikeman just moving around to clear out some of the models in between Butcher and Morvahna ends up able to do that. I think I got 1 or 2 Blood Trackers in the way. Butcher energizing to move models out of the way. and then gets his charge into Morvahna, charging right over that wreck marker with Relentless Charge. I think casting Silence of Death on himself, boosting his attack roll. Hits, and then with 4 dice of damage is able to one-shot her. She wasn't sitting on too many boxes left after cutting to reroll a bunch of times, but Butcher getting into melee with Silence of Death with any Warlock is probably game over for that Warlock, especially since he hadn't used his feat at that point. So obviously very interesting game. It was a good game to my opponent. I sort of wish he hadn't killed that Tharn Ravager. I think it would have been a much more interesting game if he hadn't had rolled that 10 to kill the Tharn Ravager. But I remember thinking at the time that the Tharn was in a pretty precarious spot because he did have to move away from that forest in order to make way for the Warpwolf Stalker, and that was able to give the Widowmaker Marksman line of sight. So obviously, if there was another place I could have put him, it would have made the unit a little bit safer, and I think I would have been in a much better position coming into this turn. Assuming that unit's still in play, I think I have a lot better of a game at this point. Especially even with Butcher, his personal damage output. He can probably kill a lot of the models, but I'm not sure he can kill basically my whole army 2 times. But obviously we didn't get to see how it would turn out, but obviously a good game, and I hope you guys enjoyed this battle report. I'm going to have a couple more Cygnar battle reports coming out to you soon. Obviously the latest errata is for Cygnar is going to be pretty interesting, and I'm excited to play some games to see how much it's changed the faction. But stay tuned for that, and keep it classy, folks.